Hey everybody, welcome to Pink Shade. It is Poppin' Bravo Thursday. It's Thursday. You guys, I have a special treat for you today. Are you guys fans of 90s sitcoms? I am, even though I was maybe too old for it. But I have Christy Lakin and Stacy Keanan today. They are the child stars of Step by Step. They have a podcast called Keanan and Lakin Give You Deja Vu, where they recap Step by Step, which is a great idea. I'm loving these recap shows that we're getting lately. So, welcome, Christine and Stacy.
Oh my gosh,
Yay!
Mary Payne, thank you so much for having us. If you knew what a huge and longtime fan I am of yours, I was just thinking, I've been listening for so long. I don't know if I can say I'm a day one bunkie, but I was
Oh,
listening back when you had merch that said Mary Payne in the streets, Aaron in the sheets. I think they
yeah,
were flip-flops, and one said one and the one said the other, which I thought I love that merch. I
that
love
is
your
so
show.
funny. That is so nice. Now listen, I when you reached out to me and I've told this on the show, you came at me with an alias that went into the folder that comes in where like the people are trying to offer you sex work. Like that's
Amazing.
yes. And I go, okay. And then you explained who you were and I was like, okay, why are you so undercover? Because look, Christine's here and she's got her full Instagram name. Loud and proud.
I don't know how to do Instagram. I think you're the first person that I ever DM'd, and I felt like I was going to get arrested. Like, I don't really know how to do it. I didn't know what was going to happen. I don't know what you're seeing on your end. But I had to take a shot because I'm just such a big fan.
That is so funny. Well, it did go into my porn folder, and usually I just go
Right.
through it and click them all and hit delete. But I was like, well, and then I read the first line. I was like, okay, this person used my name, so they must not be trying to sell me sex services. So I'm
Well,
glad I did. Yes, I'm glad I did.
and I know it's Mary Payne, of course, not Mary. I get so mad, like all the other listeners, when anyone calls you Mary on the show. I'm outraged. Of course.
I appreciate the outrage on my behalf. I really do. I really do. I really do because when it's so funny when I go to Mississippi, I don't get it. I just say Mary Payne and people say Mary Payne. I just met a guy here. I'm in a Bald Head right now, and I said, I'm Mary Payne, blah blah blah, and he goes, "Oh, Mary Payne, it's so nice to meet you." He just immediately said it, and then he said, "I was talking about my son who goes to Ole Miss." He goes, "Oh, my cousin or so and so goes there. Her name is Mary Payton," and I was like, "Of course it is." Didn't so because like I said, my best friend growing up is Mary Preston. So I was like, yeah, okay, I get it. I get it. So yeah, I listen, don't be outraged on my behalf. Sometimes people they're a little Yankee and they just can't get it. And even if I explain it, they still can't get it. And that's okay. That's okay.
Well, Christine is from Georgia. She gets it also.
Oh,
So
totally get it. I knew many a friend that had a double name. Mary
Okay.
Grace was a big one
Mary
where I came
Grace.
from. Mary Grace.
That's a good one.
Yep.
When you put that last name as the middle, that's when it gets a little murky with people. They get a little confused. And I just have to explain it's like Ellie Mae, Billy Bob. I make it sound real country. And then they get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to hear the history of you two and your friendship. So you were on this show. Now, how old were you when you were on Step by Step?
I started when I was 12.
Okay.
I think, 15 when we did the pilot and 16 when the show started.
Oh, okay. So I didn't realize. I guess now were you playing 15 and 12?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
It
So
wasn't like
in
7 and 9 or anything like that.
no, although I usually always played younger because I've just been very small and short my whole life. So,
Yeah.
but even if I wasn't exactly 12, like I looked pretty tiny in that pilot. I might have been playing 10.
Yeah.
Eventually, I kind of caught up to my own age, I feel.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the beginning, Stacy, she was already a teenager. That's a big difference when you're 12 and 16.
Yeah.
But I, of course, looked up to her. I had watched my two dads. I was such a fan of Step by Step. I mean, of TGIF and all of it. And so getting on the show, I had been working in Atlanta as a child actor, and that was just, I mean, it was a huge experience and really,
Yeah.
really fun.
And did you just like move to LA and you're like, now I'm a star?
Not really. I mean, we stayed in Atlanta. I came out, I auditioned. We didn't really think anything was going to come from it. It was more of just like the experience and the fun. And then when I got the show and then the show went, it was definitely like, oh God, okay, well, what do we do now? But you know,
Yeah.
everyone tells you like it may not go more than a year. Don't uproot your life. So my mom and I came out and we just rented an apartment, rented everything, lived in corporate housing, and I still went back to my school in Atlanta, and
Oh.
that's kind of what we did for the next 7 years.
Oh, really? And so what about you, Stacy? What was your story with getting on the show, and did you do the same thing, or did you plant roots, or were you already in LA?
No, I started acting when I was 4.
Mm.
And that was back in Philadelphia. And then we were just doing local stuff, commercials and print, my sister and I. And then we got an agent in New York. We started taking the train up to New York 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, until we finally just moved to New York, my mom and my sister and I. And then my sister and I both just did a ton of work in New York. We did voiceover, we did jingles, we did theater, we did television, we did everything. But then the good stuff was always happening in LA. The good parts were always going to the kid in LA. So we came out for pilot season, but really had already decided we were moving there. So we came out for pilot season, and that pilot season I booked My Two Dads. And then I did My Two Dads, did another show for the same producers that produced Step by Step, another show right after My Two Dads ended. That only lasted for a year before that got canceled. And then they offered me the part on Step by Step, which I think is maybe the only time I've ever been offered a part.
That is wild. So I'm interested in the whole thing because, of course, I'm sure lots of people have asked you about Quiet on the Set, the documentary that came out. And so, were you guys maybe, at least Stacy, maybe you were like, well, I don't know, because you were on TV before that. What was your experience with that? And did you watch it? And did you feel that that represented your experience as like a child star?
For me, it didn't in terms of Step by Step. You know, we've on our podcast, we've talked a lot about that experience. It was such a actually was a family environment. You know, people say that a lot about their show. Our show really was truly like that. It was just the nicest people
Yeah.
from the top down, you know, including Patrick Duffy and Suzanne Summers and just everyone involved. So I didn't have that experience on Step by Step. In other industry experiences, the documentary definitely rang true to me. I definitely recognized, you know, there's just something about being a kid in the industry that attracts certain creepy people, whether it's
Totally.
a photographer or whoever it is. That element felt unfortunately familiar to me, but not from Step by Step.
And how about you, Christine? Did you feel that you had dealt with some creepy people as well?
You know, Step by Step was really my first big job. And
Mm,
everything else I had done from that point prior was in Atlanta and was really like a commercial here and a commercial there. I mean, I had a very idyllic experience as a kid. As I got into my 20s and I continued acting, yeah, there were all kinds of stories like, you know, this director wants to see you for this part, but he's staying at the Chateau Marmont and you're going to have your audition in his hotel room. And I'm like, that's not normal.
and you're like, no, sir, Mr. Weinstein. No, sir.
Don't think I'm
Uh-uh.
going there, but okay. You know, just, and I think more than that, even, it's just like the expectation that you would almost forego any kind of rational thought in order to get a job.
Yeah.
And I feel like so many times that experience of if you worked in a bank, would this be the thing you would do to go and interview for this job? No, of course not. Would you be asked to do these things, you know, behind closed doors? But this is what everybody else is doing to get this job. And I think that like a lot of times those expectations of what the industry, you know, this is what they demand of you to know that you're right for the part, just I feel like it almost a lot of young women especially just let all their inhibitions and actually rational thinking go by the wayside. And there was
Hmm.
not a lot of people to protect you at that time. People weren't talking about things the way they talk about it now. People definitely, you know, agents, managers, like you were really on your own. So no one was walking you into the room. It's not like you were a kid and your parent was with you at the audition.
Weird. Can you think of that now, though? You think about like a 12-year-old, you would you if it was your 12-year-old, you were like constantly with them. But it does seem like, and especially from the documentary and hearing you guys talk about it, it was just sort of like go and do it. It just seems like things are so different now. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's exactly the same and that it's just more hidden. Like I have no idea, but it seems like more and more of these things are getting exposed, which can only be good for child actors coming up, right? Because so many of them, I mean, look at like Lindsay Lohan, who did pull it together, but you have so many young people like Britney Spears or Justin Bieber that had just grew up too fast, I think, or had people really not looking out for them, looking at them as like a moneymaker, you know?
And I think it's twofold, right? So I think, yeah, that stuff probably still goes on. I think it's more exposed as now. But back then, even now, like a lot, the other part of it, it depended on who your parents were. Do they have the time and energy to be with you and not be at a full time job and just make their life your career? And to what end? You know, is it because they're just
Yeah.
supporting you, or is it because they suddenly see you as the ticket to, you know, fame and fortune? I mean,
Speaking
that
of
I
that,
think is weird.
did y'all read Jeanette McCurdy's book?
Yes.
I
Yes.
found it
God,
very triggering.
I loved it. It was heartbreaking, but I loved how truthful I think she was
Yeah,
about it.
Yeah, Jeanette McCurdy, guys, if you don't know, wrote a really great book called I'm Glad My Mom Died,
yeah,
and which is like rough. But you know what? It was really attention grabbing and it got a lot of press. And then I also like too old for the shows that she was on, um Cat
Same.
and Cat and
Nat.
Cat and Nat? Is that what it was? Because then she was on Ariana Grande. That was a spinoff or vice versa, but it was all a Nickelodeon
Yeah,
situation. And my kids were sort of in that sweet spot of they were sort of Dora the Explorer at that time, you know, so they didn't quite watch those Nickelodeon shows. And I forbid them to watch Hannah Montana. For some reason, that was like, this is the hill I'm dying on. You can't watch Hannah Montana
yeah,
because I thought they were just too sassy to the parents, you know. It didn't help. They became sassy anyway, but I think it was in that time. So I didn't quite know who she was. So I was coming at it from just like she was a complete stranger to me in that book. And that was a great book.
yeah.
Great book. That was a great book. So all right, we'll move off of that terrible subject. So your show, Step by Step, ran for 7 seasons. Like that's a long time.
It's a long time. Yeah,
Yeah,
especially in now today's age.
Yeah.
yeah, we really grew up on that show, and that's really what a lot of our podcast is about, is talking about growing up in the 90s in front of a camera on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, okay. Now tell me, I was looking at the time frame of when Step by Step came out. It was literally right after Dallas went off the air. And Patrick Duffy, who I saw was on your show this past week or so, I mean, now I was like, oh my God. Like, you know, I was of the age where I thought he was so hot. So he was coming right off the fame of Dallas right into that show. And of course, Suzanne Summers, icon. I mean,
Complete icon,
how could
legend.
how could it go wrong? I mean, with these two people on the show, right?
I mean, I think
Well,
it
and
was.
Go
No,
ahead.
you go. Yeah, it was definitely for those producers. You know, they were no novices to television. Tom Miller and Bob Boyette were TV giants already. They had done Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy,
Wow.
all of basically almost every show that ran on TGIF. So they really, you know, had a knack, like a golden touch for putting casts together and putting shows together. So I think getting Patrick Duffy, who had been desperate to do comedy. Nobody knew him as a comedy performer, and nobody thought he could do comedy. And I said, how did you get that role? Like, how did they know to? I mean, you're Patrick Duffy, but you had never done a sitcom. He had them send over the gag reels of Dallas.
Oh,
And
smart.
that was how he sort of convinced everybody that he could do it. And he really wanted, that's like a direction he'd really wanted to go in for a long time. So I think having those two together already on the show, it boded very well for the start of it.
And
The two of them.
Suzanne Summers, I just got to ask you about her. She seemed like such a genuine person, and she was like so rich with that QVC money.
True. Yes, true. Yeah, she was a great business person, brilliant business person, so savvy and smart and ahead of her time in so many ways. She did not have a diva bone in her body, and neither does Patrick Duffy. So, you know, I'm sure maybe some of those producers who didn't know them were afraid, oh God, we're going to bring these two in and it's going to be a diva off, between the two of them. And it was the complete opposite. They both were just so easygoing and funny and just sweet, truly. But yeah, Suzanne was just incredible, just so glamorous, and the icon that she was, but at the same time just goofy and so sweet to all of us kids and so welcoming. She was very maternal, actually. She had a very nurturing way about her, and she had her own kind of way of talking to each of us, according to our age and what we were up to. So she and I and Angela Watson, we would always be talking about, she would call them our shallow conversations, because we were always talking about a certain lip liner and what shoes we were trying to get and clothes. She found a way to connect to all of us individually. Even though there were 100 kids on that show, she still managed to do it.
Now, okay, this reminds me. I want to ask you guys to give me. I need from both of you your best and your worst Hollywood story. Like, give me I love a like a brush with fame kind of a story. So give me your best and your worst. And if you don't want to say the people's names of the worst, you don't have to. But I'll try to guess anyway.
Okay, so wait, let me clarify. When you say brush with fame, so do you mean an experience with a celebrity?
Yeah, just anything. It could be on a set, like something personally, something you were working on, or it could be like you ran into them at the grocery store.
Well, I've talked about when I was a kid, I got to go on to the set of A Few Good Men. And I got to meet Tom Cruise and Kevin Bacon and Demi Moore. It's kind of best and worst all in one, because they were all wearing the uniforms. They were in full wardrobe because they were shooting. My set tutor knew somebody over there and took me over to the soundstage, and I got to meet them all. So that was kind of best, because they were all exactly like you would want them to be. Tom Cruise was just like, well, hello, nice to meet you, just look you in the eye, just impressive. And then I also got to meet Jack Nicholson, who was my idol, and at that time I just thought he was the best actor who had ever lived. He was what I aspired to be in terms of acting ability someday. And he also was very impressive. He had the uniform on and everything, but he was also pretty drunk.
What? What? He was drunk on set?
Yes. So, and I was maybe 13 or 14, but even I could tell.
Wait, was he supposed to be drunk in the scene and it was method acting? Or he was like, hey, I'm done shooting for the day. Let's tie one on?
No, it was the morning. I'm pretty sure they were about to do some big courtroom scene. You can't handle the truth or whatever. Yeah. Yes.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
That is crazy. And Tom Cruise, he didn't try to recruit you to Scientology, did he?
He didn't have a chance. It was a brief interaction. It was just a hello. It was just a nice hello and a little small talk, and then moving on. And then years later, I saw Jack Nicholson at a strip club in Atlanta with his sunglasses on, iconic, just standing up dancing in a full circle of naked ladies that were all dancing around him. And I thought, Jack is he's in his element right now. He looked very happy.
Now, I don't want to know why you were in a strip club with naked ladies. That's your own business. But it must have been a pretty high end one if Jack Nicholson was there.
It was gorgeous. I went with some friends for the Olympics when it was in Atlanta, and they wanted to go, and they were saying how fabulous the strip clubs were in Atlanta. And I don't think I had ever been to a strip club, and I was completely down. And yeah, the place was gorgeous. It looked like a Vegas, showroom. It was incredible.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Those are good. All right, Christine, we have to top it.
Atlanta's known for their strip clubs.
Yeah, they are. They are.
It's one of our exports. Imports? I don't know. Anyway, so let's see. I have a lot of strange and fun stories. God, I'd have to say one of maybe my most unique. I did a movie when I was in my 20s, and I got to go to Turks and Caicos for 2 weeks.
Cool.
I know. Pretty awesome. And Christopher Walken played my father in the movie. And I've just been watching him on the second season of Severance, so I'm a little bit just like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to like work with him.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
just such, I mean, he's so iconic in so many ways. And we were working, we were on this pier. He is just glowing white. I mean, he is in like a bathing suit, and we are trying to like get onto a boat, and he is like literally like, I mean,
It's
whiter
like,
than white,
yeah,
and
it's like
translucent.
me. It's like me. They go out to, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, girl, that girl needs some vitamin D. Yeah.
Yeah, and we get out, we're doing our work for the day, and then he was done, and I was still working on the pier. So they wrapped him, and he had a villa just like south of where we were shooting, and I guess he was wrapped for the day, and suddenly he decided to go swimming. Well, I guess he can't swim, so one of the PAs looks over, and I hear on the walkie, "Does someone have a 10 on eyes on Christopher Walken? Is he okay?" And we look over, and he's just like floating, like in the water, but only maybe in, I don't know, a foot and a half of water, but he's just floating like face down. And then about every minute or so, he'd come up and take a big breath and go back down. And he was fine, but he wanted to experience the water and experience the fish, but he doesn't know how to swim. So that was sort of his way of getting in the water. We asked him about it the next day, and it was just like, it was just, I don't know, it was hilarious. He was fine, thank God, because everyone thought for a moment that he might be perished in the water. And they
Well, I
definitely didn't have
mean,
enough insurance to cover that, I'm sure.
I hate to throw it back, but he was on the boat when Natalie Wood went overboard. I
It's all very
mean,
strange, Mary Payne. It's all very interesting, Mary Payne.
mm,
I mean, you could do a deep dive on that.
that's a good Christopher Walken story. I love whenever he's on SNL. I mean,
He's the
because
best.
he's so strange. He's
He's
so
just,
he's so strange. But that makes a good actor sometimes. Just the weirder the better. Look at Jack Nicholson. Um, okay, well that is a very good story too. If you come up with any more
yes.
and you want to tell me later, you could
Okay.
that's I love a good story. I have one. I have a million, but all of mine are just like tangential. I went to this party for Obama's first inauguration. It was the Creative Coalition had this big party, and somehow my husband knew somebody, so we got like the VVIP wristbands. Like we did not pay for them. His company paid for us to go, so we got to go into the VVIP room, and in that room was like Anne Hathaway and like Magic Johnson and Spike Lee and um Tyne and Tim Daly siblings, and I just like people that just the people were there, so everybody was like totally nice if you spoke to them except for Anne Hathaway, who is a big old biatch. And so later I took a very unattractive picture of her just to show her that I could do it. Uh-huh. Yeah,
Smart.
she wasn't nice. She was flat out rude, and everybody else was so nice. And I wasn't like running up to people, can I get a picture? Just if they were in my area, I would say, "Oh, I loved you in this," or "Can I get a picture?" In my mind, I'm like, they have to know that if I'm in this room, I'm not completely crazy. Like maybe I have the money to be here, which I didn't because it was free for me. But no, but Anne Hathaway was like, she had just been in that movie, Rachel in the Wedding, or Rachel Does the Wedding, where she played like the alcoholic sister of the person getting married. She was
Right.
so good in that movie, and I was like, oh God, I
Yeah.
love that movie. I think she was like nominated for it. And I didn't know her from Princess whatever. I didn't know her from any of that stuff. I just knew her from that like indie film. She did not care. She did not care about my indie film knowledge. She did not want to speak to me at all. So
Oh no.
It happens. It happens.
You
Christine's in
know,
her
Not
mind like,
great.
I met Anne Hathaway once and she was a bitch to me
No,
too, but she's not going to say
not her. But yeah, I
it.
mean, every so often you get a tough one
All
who
right,
just
so
doesn't
no.
want
tell.
to be there.
Mhm. Go ahead, Stacey.
I was in acting class with Deborah Gibson, right? And
Oh,
Deborah is a real hustler. She's like you, Mary Payne. She is not afraid to walk up to anybody, introduce herself, meet them. So we were doing a scene together, and we decided to go to the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf on Sunset Boulevard, right there in Hollywood, West Hollywood. So I had something to do that night. And at that time, I used to pin curl my hair. My hair was kind of shoulder length, and I would do these kind of 1920s little. So you would take your hair and coil it up and then stick one of those big silver, you
yeah.
know, pins, like
Yeah.
alligator type of pins.
Hmm.
I didn't, I had to go to this thing. The things were already in my hair. She wanted to go to Coffee Bean. I said, fine, I'm not going to take them down. I'm just going to leave them. This is embarrassing. I'm going out with curlers in my hair, whatever. So I took kind of a silk scarf and I put it over it, but you could still see them. So then we go to the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. And of course, who is there but Ben Stiller? And Deborah, being Deborah, she has to meet Ben Stiller. And as soon as we walk in and she spots him, it's like, okay, strategizing. We got to go over there. I have to meet him. And I'm going, oh my God, I'm going to meet Ben Stiller with these curlers in my hair. So, so we end up talking to him, and and he was so nice. He was so nice and so polite. But the entire time, you know, when somebody's eyes are looking at something on you, and you're going, what are they looking at? Like, what do I have on me? He just kept looking. His eyes just kept flicking up to my hair, and he was kind of laughing to himself. He was kind of chuckling under his breath, and I was just waiting for what he was going to say. I was just waiting for this killer line that he was just going to destroy me with, and he held himself back. He never said it.
That is the worst, when you're like, what? And you're always like, is something in my teeth? What's on my hair? Like, stop. Just tell me what it is. Quit looking at it. Yes. But you knew what it was, so you didn't.
I knew what it and he's going, he was just like, I could almost read his thoughts. Like there was a little chyron underneath going, she really left the house with curls in her hair and came to the Coffee Bean in Hollywood. Imagine that.
Now, let me ask you, okay, about your friendship. Have you guys been friends this whole time, or did you reconnect later in life, or you just stayed friends ever since you were, teens in your early 20s?
Yeah, we got closer as the show went on. I always secretly wanted to be closer with the older girls, but I for many years was regulated to being a kid. So I wanted to be like 16 and 17 and talk about makeup and boys and all of that. But I was like 12, 13. So in the very beginning, I hung around a lot with the little boys on the show, and we would play video games and stuff. And then as I got to be a little older, myself and Stacy and Angela all got closer, and we would hang out more on set, and it was really fun. And then when the show ended, Stacy and I were both at UCLA. We didn't run into each other a ton, every now and then. And then we would see each other, randomly. Like I would have parties and invite Stacy, or she would have a party and invite me. And then really once she went off to law school, I feel like that was just a hole in time of you just being in law school.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And then now doing the podcast, I mean, obviously we talk all the time, and we're recording all the time, and it's really nice. It's nice to have a more regular schedule where we get to chat and but there's so many things that I didn't even playing sisters on a show, even knowing someone as you grow up. Again, I had a different experience in some ways than Stacy did. So there's a lot of things that I was not privy to or had no idea about at that time. So it's been really interesting kind of going back, because you think you know someone, but you don't know everything about their experience or what they remember. So that's been pretty special.
And on the podcast, you're talking to the adults on the show, which has got to be really interesting, right? Because you were seeing it through a kid lens, and they're seeing it through are they giving you any like inside scoop, like what you didn't know was this makeup artist was having a thing with the production assistant, or any of that? Are you getting any like that? You're like, I always thought that was something.
Yeah, I think we were pretty good about the onset gossip. We were pretty up in the mix about finding out, excuse me, who was that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we had Ross Brown on our podcast. He was our executive producer. He was our showrunner for many years, and he told stories and behind the scenes stuff from his point of view that I never knew. Dealing with the network, dealing with the writers, casting the guest stars that would come in and out every single week. Stuff that I don't think I even ever thought of or knew. It is so weird. It reminds me of being siblings in a family where the older siblings were privy to or knew about certain things. The younger siblings find out these things for the first time 30 years later. Yeah. You do kind of live different lives. And I've learned from Christine stuff that happened with the younger kids that I never knew about. And I'm also finding out that she wished that she was hanging out with us more, which I feel bad about. I wish, why didn't I think of that? Or why didn't I should have known that or have that intuition at the time and kind of brought her along with us? I wish I had, you know?
Okay. Now, speaking of the podcast, you guys, okay. So Stacy, when you first sent me that non-sexual, but went into the sexual inbox DM, and you were like, hey, if you want to hear this clip of we mentioned you and Keisha on our show. And I was like, what? You could just drop a line to our producer, Stephen Ray Morris. I mean, whatever else you said before or after that was like
Gone.
gone. I said, did you just name drop Stephen Ray Morris? Because now,
Oh, nothing.
what? Because I died. Because again, everybody, if you've listened to this show, I'm obsessed with My Favorite Murder. I'm a huge fan of Karen in Georgia. I'm like dream goal of my life, still on my list from 6 years ago when 7 years ago when I started podcasting, is number one person I'd ever want to interview would be Karen in Georgia. Karen specifically because we're the same age. My love for Karen is well documented. I did get to meet her completely accidentally at Podcast Movement, lost my mind, and I have a cold black heart, cried a little. It was not cool. It was not good. It did not make her think, yeah, this is a person I would love to chat with. It made her think slight restraining order might be. And even when I mentioned Steven, she was like, because I was like, are you lying? I was like, if I mention Steven, then for sure she's going to want to come on. No, it has not happened. I've sent a full pitch deck. I paid a PR person to do a pitch deck geared towards Karen to try to get her on this show. And it's like crickets. Nobody has replied.
Oh,
So after this, I'm going to reach out to Steven again. I'm trying not to overplay my hand, but all I do is talk about it. And I really go to bed at night, manifesting it. So how is it working with Steven? That's my question.
God. We have an acronym for thank God for Stephen Ray Morris. He's the best. And I was so lucky. I worked with him on a former podcast I did, and we had a great relationship. And I've just always adored him as a person. He's an amazing producer.
Yeah.
I feel like really started doing this in the very beginning before being a podcast producer was even a thing.
Totally.
And he's just got such a great mind. He knows so much about pop culture. He retains so many things in his brain. He's actually really, I think, the thing that tipped this podcast over the edge to get it going, because Stacy had come to me with the idea and really wanted to do a recap podcast. And I thought that was sort of interesting. I don't know that I would care to recap it with anyone else. But I thought it was a really cool concept. I hadn't watched the show in a long time, and Stacy had never watched the show. So this is her first time ever watching it.
That's crazy.
So I thought that was a really cool angle as well.
Yeah.
And then, so we started recording it. I think we recorded for almost a year just to see what it was like, and just to see what was the format? How long would the recaps be? How in depth would they be? What did we have to talk about? Would anyone be interested? And then we had all these recordings, and we just kind of needed someone to come in and help us. And it took a while. I had lunch. Steven randomly reached out to me. He and I had lunch. I kind of soft pitched him the podcast at lunch. I was like, we've been working on this for a while. I don't know. We need someone to come in. We need you, honestly, but you're probably busy. And he was like, I would love to do this podcast. And then I told Stacy, and you could tell your reaction to that.
So I'm also a huge fan of My Favorite Murder, huge fan of Steven. And yes, we had all of season one's worth of step-by-step episodes, all those podcasts recorded, but we needed someone to get it over the edge. So, at one point I so wanted this to happen, but I didn't know really what to do. And I was just lamenting this to my husband, and he said, well, doesn't Lakin know Stephen Ray Morris? What about asking him? And I said, he is the most famous podcast producer in the entire world. Are you kidding? He doesn't want anything to do with our stupid little show. And then when Lakin said he wanted to do it, I really almost still cannot believe it. I still cannot believe it. It's like he was on my vision board, and then he shows up and we record the show. It's just, I mean, on top, I totally agree with everything Lakin said about Steven, but on top of that, he's very nurturing. As two female podcasters with a male producer, he is so supportive of us, and he has this nurturing way about him that makes you think that you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Well, listen, I think that I've met y'all and now I've met Steven and then you knew Steven and then you love my favorite murder. So let's just keep it. We'll keep the conversation going. Well, maybe it will happen for me one day. And when
Yes.
it does, after the next day I'm retiring because I'm never going to podcast again. No. I'm just, now, all
Well,
right,
based on your account of meeting George,
Karen.
not Georgia,
Karen.
Karen, sorry, my brain just went blank there for a second. I thought, hearing you talk about it on the pod, I thought it sounded like she loved you because Karen, from listening to the pod, she seems like she could be a little tough, maybe a little intimidating, but I
Totally.
thought she loved you. No?
Yeah, I don't know. She just sort of didn't talk a lot and just let me sort of blah, 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 blah. And then it was cringe. It was cringe because Matt Maher went up to her and was like, "Listen, I know who you are. I don't listen to your show. I can't listen to true crime. I'm scared." She goes, "Okay." That was the introduction. But here's my friend that's obsessed with you and she doesn't want to talk to you because she's so scared. As if I was like 7. I was like, "Hi, nice to meet you." I like shrunk within myself and then I talked too much and acted like a real idiot. But what I hope is that maybe she'll go and listen to some episodes if there's some, because I've had some people on that she knows. So maybe she would go and listen to that. I don't know. Listen, we can't talk about it anymore, but it's um okay, tell me what shows you guys are watching. Now, obviously you're watching Love After Lockup, or at least I know Stacy is because that's how you started listening to Pink Shades. What trashy, I mean, when I say trashy, I mean amazing shows are
Yes.
you watching?
Well, I've done a real deep dive into the Valley.
So good.
I've watched a lot of the
Your fault,
Valley the
Mary
past few
Payne. This
days.
is your
My
fault.
fault. It's my
Yeah.
fault.
Your fault.
It's so good.
Oh my
It's so
gosh.
good. It's so dark. It's so good.
People are struggling on that show.
They are.
Oh my
Everyone's
God.
struggling. Yeah.
Of course, I watch all of Beverly Hills, Real Housewives. I've really done. This is really. I'm not super proud of this, but I've pretty much watched every single season and iteration of Below Deck. I am
That's
currently,
great.
yeah, Below Deck, Down Under. I mean, this is kind of the show that we watch, like my husband and I, when we're folding laundry or like
Okay.
dozing off.
Yeah.
No offense, Below Deck.
No, that's
but you can
that's us
really,
with like Friends. It's just always on.
you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
pick
yeah.
it up at any point, really. If you dozed off, you don't really need to know what happened. You'll figure it out.
So Kimberly of Date with Dateline, who you know as well, that's her favorite show.
Oh
Is
my
all the
gosh.
iterations of Below Deck. So you guys have that in common.
It's great. I mean,
I
people
dip
come
in and
back
out.
around. It's,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes. What about what's her name that has the crazy voice? Aisha.
Oh,
It talks like
Aisha.
this. Yeah.
Everyone has so many weird and crazy. Oh yeah, I. Sometimes I'm like, what are you saying?
It's like put on okay, I didn't have the closed captions on. Now I need them. I don't know what anybody's saying on this show.
The most
Yeah.
wild accents. Yeah, it's great.
And what about you, Stacey? What are you watching besides Love After Lockup, of course, which is on a break, which is upsetting.
So I actually stopped listening or watching Love After Lockup because it became so hard to find. And then I would buy
Yeah,
it on Amazon, but then the episodes still wouldn't be available. And I would just be jonesing so hard and not be able to watch the episode. And it was so frustrating. And then, like you always point out, it's so wonky the way they number the seasons and the episodes. And then I would end up maybe buying the wrong season because I thought it was the next season and it was.
totally.
So I finally gave up on watching it and I just listen to you and Keisha every single Monday for Misdemeanor Mondays. So I don't even know when you're talking about people, sometimes I just have to go while I'm listening and look up who you're speaking of so I can picture the teeth and the lashes and the wig for wig court. And
Hmm.
because I don't even know who the people are anymore. And then because of you, I started watching The Valley, which I can never undo that now. There is no going back.
Okay.
I mean, back to the beginning, all the way up. And now here I am just waiting for Wednesday night for the episode. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think maybe the show should be called Marriage is Hard. Maybe. And then the other takeaway from it, I don't know if it's even a takeaway. I don't understand drinking like this, because so there will be somebody who gets in trouble for being drunk, but then the person who started it was also super wasted, and no one even mentions that. Everyone's just so wasted that it's this matter of degrees that is so extreme. I have never seen anything like it.
Well, it's like the Karen Reed trial. Everybody's drunk. Everybody's driving. Everybody's just running their cars all up in the snow. Everybody's just shit-faced on a Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but if you ever watch Vanderpump Rules, like the basis of that show is everybody's drunk. And so then they roll into the valley and they're older with kids and then everybody's drunk. But I think it's a matter of who's got the problem. It's a lot of it's the Spider-Man meme of everybody's, because it's like, I want to call, just based on my own experience, I want to call out your problem so I don't have to look at my own problem,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, if I drink this much, at least I'm not as bad as Jax. He's got a Coke problem. Like, it's so
right.
The valley is so good.
On the most recent episode, I did not understand why I'm still flummoxed about the whole Nia thing, because Nia didn't declare that her husband's an alcoholic. She's being inauthentic. I was so confused by that. I just wanted to yell into the screen, you know that they're married, right? She does have loyalty to him, number one. Number two, it's not her job to diagnose him as alcoholic or anything else. And number three, she doesn't owe it to you to throw her husband under the bus for the purposes of this show. Are you people nuts? I was lost by that whole scenario. But also, I thought the people who instigated it were drunk, but no one talks about it. I thought Jasmine was kind of drunk, actually, when she instigated the whole thing. No one mentioned that. It was like that didn't happen.
Well, she's upset by Dark Side Danny and what happened on Halloween, and that's fine. And she has the right to continue to be upset about that. She can be upset about it for 2 years. That's her right. I did like this week that they really sat down over drinks, of course, to discuss his drinking. And nobody gets the irony, but I was glad that he was able to sort of hear what she was saying about, I am in a lesbian relationship and people don't take it seriously or they fetishize it. And so that's why I was so upsetting that you were grabbing at us and we just kind of thought you were different. You were our friend. So all of that I understood, and I was glad that at least they seemed to come at the brewery to an understanding of his drinking, which is just crazy.
Well, and Janet is the silent killer. She is the one. She scares me to death.
Love her. I love her. I love Janet. This is a great show because of Janet. Janet and Zach in the background, and if they would just partner up for evil, they could really just take it all down. But luckily they're fighting. So the evil has been split. But they are, when the show first started, The Valley, and after Scandal, I'd listened to tons of Vanderpump Rules cast members' podcast. Janet was always there. Janet was there. She was on this podcast, that podcast. And even like Kristen said one time, listen, you guys think I'm a shit stirrer. Let me let you meet my friend Janet. So I knew about Janet before Janet came on the show, knowing that she was going to be a shit stirrer. And people were like, she is the female version of Jax, not in the sociopathic way, but in the shit stirring way. And they are right. And I love
she's
it.
definitely a silent killer. Yeah.
And Jason is just says nothing. I love him
poor
too.
Jason. Poor Jason. Because she comes off very, very put together, a little bit
Sweet.
Above it all, right? As if she knows best. She can be very rational, but there is, she will definitely cut someone down and manipulate a situation.
I love it.
She can.
And I also,
oh my God,
I hate Jesse and I love Jesse at the same time,
Yeah.
Like I hate him and I love him. Yeah.
He's messy.
He's messy. I have never met someone more of a complete narcissist.
I'm scared of him.
Textbook.
I'm scared of him. Like that's the kind of person, when he looked right at Janet in front of her husband and said, "This is the game and you don't know how to play the game," or whatever he said. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so scared." I'm scared of him.
Well, and you're the real psycho when you're saying that to Janet, the person who said, you wanted my baby to die. It's like, no, I'm sorry, ma'am. It's on, you realize there's cameras, right? And this is on video. That was never said, but the show just kind of ran with that as though that is what Zach said. which he
Yes.
never did. Never
Yes,
did.
he
And I
never
wanted
did.
to be his defense attorney and run in there and be like, hold on, everyone stop. Zach, please do not entertain this for one single second. Let's just roll the tape. He never said that. What he said was, I don't care. He wasn't saying I don't care about her pregnancy. He was saying, I don't care that she's acting like the only person who's ever been pregnant in the history of humanity.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
care about that act. That is so clearly what he meant, which I felt down to my bones. I also don't care, about that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm pregnant. So I can just, destroy everyone and no one can say anything to me.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Now,
Everyone should just be pregnant all the time, I guess. If
I
that's
will say that I heard Janet was on Janet's on all the podcasts. Janet was on Sheena's podcast, maybe, and they said that he did say something like, "I hope the baby died." He did say something terrible that wasn't on camera, that wasn't even maybe even at that event, but at another event. So technically, they can only talk about what we saw, but apparently he got blackout and did say something horrible. But like I say all the time, we have to go by what we've seen on our screen. We have to recap what we've seen on our screen. And if we didn't see that or hear that, then we can't. Listen, I think Zach is great TV too. I think everybody is great. Never change it. Never bring anybody else in. This is the cast. Michelle's strange boyfriend will allow it. Will allow it. But
I guess.
Don't change. Now, listen, because we have to wrap up soon, I do have to know, Stacy, because I know now you are a lawyer extraordinaire. Are you watching Karen Reed? Because I literally have my iPad right here. It is paused. The trial is paused while I'm talking to y'all. All day, every day.
I have not been watching it. As a prosecutor, I've had cases with Alan Jackson before, so I'm, familiar with him. But I listened to, when the first trial happened and the mistrial, I listened to a podcast called The Prosecutors. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I've heard of it,
but
yeah.
They did a 500 episode series covering the first trial that was so in-depth and so detailed. And after that, I had to let it go because I listened to a million hours of it. So I haven't been following this one so much. I started to watch the documentary, but I was struggling with the documentary. So what is your take? What do you think?
Even if there is a world that she bumped him with the car and he fell back and died, okay? Even if there's a world in which that happened, which I don't think it, I personally, from my expertise, don't think it did. But even if there's a world in that happened, she bumped him, he fell back, he died. That's it. End of story. He never went in the house. The dog never bit him. He never hit his head on the gym equipment. I don't know why those people just suddenly got new flooring and got rid of their dog like within a week, but sure. And why everybody threw their phones away in 12 different bins. That's not weird. All these things, let's just say there's so much reasonable doubt, and the prosecution's witnesses and everything have been so shoddy. And even this last witness is talking about the accident reconstruction. He has said himself, he is for the prosecution. And he is like, we don't know the exact time any collision happened or if a collision happened at all. That's the prosecution's witness. And then he goes, but I think that probably she hit him with the car. No, you just said the data on the car shows you don't even know if there was a collision. And if there was, what time it happened. So you can't even say at this time the car sped up to 20 or they can't say any of it. And that's for the prosecution. There's so much reasonable doubt that there's absolutely no way any person could say there's not enough reasonable doubt, because it's nothing but reasonable doubt, in my opinion. But I'm for the defense, but generally in my life, I'm always for the prosecution. Listen, you're talking to a person who did not miss one word one day of the O.J. Simpson trial, because I worked at Turner Broadcasting at the time in the CNN building. So there are TVs everywhere. Literally, I would go in the bathroom to wash my hands and there's Greta Van Susteren. Like I didn't miss a minute of it. It was all being filmed there in the building where I worked. And because I had no choice, it was on. And sometimes I would just stay at work because I was like, oh, it's going to be on. They're going to keep it on later. I guess I'll just stay at work because I didn't want to miss it, because you couldn't get it in the car and like listen, like we could,
Right.
like we can now. So, and again, always for the prosecution, especially in that case.
That building, that is where I spent most of my career as a DA for LA DA, was at CCB, the criminal courts building where the OJ trial was.
Mm-mm. What's your thought on the Menendez brothers probably getting out after time served?
That's a tough one for me. This is not a popular opinion, but I don't know about that. I
I
think
agree. I'm not so just like let them out. They only killed their parents. I'm like, but they did kill two people. I mean,
the biggest problem for them is that they killed their mom.
hmm
That was the worst fact in their case. If they had only killed Jose, it would have been a different story.
right.
The fact that they killed her is crucial to me and says a whole lot about their intent and what was really going on. I don't, I just, I mean, they shotgunned a couple of people that were sitting in their house eating strawberries, watching TV,
Yeah.
who were the
Yeah.
parents. I think it's really tough.
I agree with that. I agree. I'm very on the fence with that one. Listen, I have zero law background. I'm just like giving my opinion like it's fact. Now, Christine, you are acting still. You're doing theater. Tell me what you're doing.
Acting sometimes. I
Yeah.
do a lot of voice acting. I do a lot
You
of
and Danny. Do you run across Danny?
no. I do a
Never.
lot of by myself in a booth. It's
Yeah.
very solitary, solitary confinement.
Mhm.
I do a lot of audiobooks. I narrate a lot, and I've always
Cool.
done that. Yeah, and I really enjoy it. But then I also about 6 or 7 years ago transitioned my career over to direct television. So
Okay.
that's what my primary focus has been for like the last 6, 7 years.
And you guys both live in LA now.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
actually just drove by the other day Jax's,
I've
which
been
I
there.
know. I mean, did you
Been there.
go?
Mhm,
Yeah.
I've been there.
That
Mhm.
bar has always been weird.
It's a
It's been
very
so many different things over the years,
it's
but
attached to another bar.
yeah.
Yeah, I went and it happened to be season one, episode two was airing that night. And it just happened to be that I was there with Ryan Bailey and Ingrid, my producer, was there. We went to meet and we were like, oh, and then the whole cast like came in because they were doing a watch party.
Oh,
But we
wow.
didn't, I'd only seen one episode. So I only knew Jax, Brittany, Kristen, and Luke came in and they chatted with us for a minute. They were because they knew Ryan. And then Jack came up was like, how's it going? Like just so nuts. And then and I'd met him before too. And I reminded him, he's like, oh yeah. I was like, you don't get away. But he was like busting our table. And I was like, wow, you have a lot of energy. Should have a lot of energy. But they were separated at that time. She did
Oh,
not
wow.
speak to him. Mm-mm. And she was
Wow.
like,
Okay.
hey y'all. And just kept going. That was it. Drama.
I drive
Interesting. Dreamer.
drive by there all the time. I would love to meet Jason. He's a cutie.
He is adorable. And Matt Maher of Reality Gaze, used to work in the same law firm as he did. Yeah.
I heard you say that. I want to
Yeah.
meet those two too. Making Jake and Matt. Sorry, I love their show as well, of course.
I'll
But yeah,
introduce
I
you.
can't believe
Yeah.
he knew him. Oh,
Yeah. He was like, do you want me to get you an interview with Jason? I go, no, I think he's too nice. I don't think he would. They were just on Watch What Happens Live, Jason and Janet, and he just loves him some Janet. Just anything. He's like, she's so crazy. He doesn't care. He's just like, that's what she does. That's my wife. It's cute. It's
well,
cute.
Yeah.
but they're coming for him, right? With the whole, he doesn't wear his wedding ring.
Yeah.
Jason's going down. Unfortunately, Janet, who would normally be the one to do it, is not going to do it. So someone else is going to have to do it.
Jason's not going down. They don't have anything on him. He's very squeaky clean. Like they did one of those the dating shows where they used to have that you write something on the board and you turn around your answer.
yeah.
Both couples did it, and it was like, "Where's the craziest place you've ever had sex?" They both answered couch,
The couch, yeah.
and so I
vanilla.
was like, and then it was like, what's your favorite sex position?" They're both like missionary. And Andy's like, "Wow, you guys are getting real crazy on the couch over there." So no, Jason's not going down. I think he is as presented, just a nice guy.
I
Listen,
hope not. I love him, but that show, anything could happen. So
well, that's true. Well, I'm going to remember this. So when we roll into Beverly Hills and stuff, I'm going to remember this to have you guys come back on to chat more Bravo because
Oh,
I'm very
yeah.
happy to know that you guys are watching it. Okay, so tell everybody, don't try to find Stacy. You can't find her. Don't even try it. You're going to have to go to the
find
courthouse.
myself. Are you kidding?
You can go to Keanan and Lakin because
Okay.
we both manage the Keanan and Lakin page.
Okay, Keanan and Lakin, that's on Instagram, and you can find it. I'm going to link it here in the show notes. So everybody go. And then that's where you can find everything about the podcast. It's where you get your podcast. And you guys know if Steven is producing it, it's really good. And it's really good. And you had that Patrick Duffy on.
Oh
Scrumptious.
yes, that episode just came out on our main feed. Yes, it's Keanan and Lakin give you deja vu. We are on
Mm,
Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your pods. And season 3 will be debuting very soon in June.
okay. That's good to hear. All right. Thank y'all so much for coming. And we're going to
Thank
definitely have you
you.
back to cover some more Bravo stuff now that I know that you're so into it.
What a
Okay.
dream. Thank you
Okay.
so
Thank you
much,
so
Mary
much,
Payne.
Mary
I am
Payne.
your bunkie always.
Ah, so nice. Okay. Bye.
Bye.